Dane Kellen had learned 3 things in his first 6 months at the Radiant Court. First, the floors of the Aurelian Sky Hall were polished so smooth that every step felt like a scuff on divinity. Second, Princess Ceres Vale thought he existed for her amusement. Third, human armor made Aurelian nobles laugh. The Sky Hall rose like a 3-tiered cathedral of glass. Tonight the chamber glowed with gold and blue, victory colors. The Aurelians had just unveiled a new orbital shield lattice, a grid that could vaporize anything larger than a shuttle long before it reached their air. Dane stood by the eastern arch, one of 4 humans in composite armor among guards whose skin shimmered with embedded shields. His ballistic plates and filters might as well have been museum pieces beside their seamless fields of light. He'd been warned the Aurelians found human kinetics quaint. Princess Ceres found them hilarious. Her crest, a ridge of living crystal along her skull, flared violet as her gaze found him. "Sergeant Kellen," she called, "you've honored us with your most ceremonial armor tonight." "Here we go," he thought, locking his neutral smile into place. "Standard field issue, Your Highness," he said. "How historical," Ceres replied, gliding down from the dais with a knot of courtiers. "Was it recovered from a museum? Or is it a reproduction of something your ancestors used when they still believed metal could stop death?" Laughter rippled through the hall. "Not a reproduction," Dane said. "I've worn this pattern in combat." "Have you really?" Her eyes glittered. "What an antique battlefield that must have been. Tell me, do humans still encase themselves in physical armor in an age of fields and phase distortion?" "Some of us prefer protection we can see and repair with our own hands." "Ah," she said, smile sharpening, "because you don't trust what you can't touch." The room rewarded her with a shimmer of sound. Dane let it wash over him like rain sliding off plating. Ceres circled him. "My guards activate their shields with a thought. No straps, no buckles, no hinges." Her gaze traced the seams of his plates. "How long does it take you to put this on? Do you kindly ask your enemies to wait while you assemble yourself?" "Field ready in under 90 seconds, Your Highness." 90 seconds, she echoed in mock horror. "Our shields deploy in a heartbeat. But I suppose when one's nervous system isn't designed for real-time neural integration, one must make do with straps." More laughter. Dane's fingers twitched once against his holster, then went still. Ceres tapped his chest plate with 2 knuckles, the hollow ring carried. "This alloy, pressed iron, hardened steel. Layered ceramic over titanium carbide matrix. Rated for, oh, spare us the specifications," she cut in. "I'm sure it's very impressive on worlds where the most dangerous projectile is a hunting slug. Tell me, has it ever actually stopped anything that wanted you dead, or has it only ever made you feel brave in front of a mirror?" Silence fell harder than the laughter. Images flashed behind his eyes. A station bleeding air, plasma scoring across his visor, the sound a man makes when shrapnel finds the gap under his arm. His throat tightened. Without quite deciding to, Dane moved. He released the clamp at his left forearm. Metal hissed softly as the gauntlet unlocked. Ceres's crest flickered, amusement cracking. "Sergeant," she said. He slid the gauntlet free and set it on the glass floor. Cool air touched scarred skin. Old burns mapped his palm, pale grafts ringed his wrist. The nearest guard shifted, shields humming, but Dane was already at the chest seals. One twist, too, the motion drilled into muscle memory. "Sergeant Kellen, you are on duty," Ceres snapped. "Explain yourself." The chest plate came away, revealing a close-fitted undershirt stretched over a map of old damage. Puckered marks where rounds had struck, twisted lines of plasma burn, the rough texture of shrapnel paths. Under the Sky Hall's light, there was no pretending they were anything but what they were. He set the plate beside the gauntlet. Shoulder guards followed, thigh plates, belt rig, each piece placed with steady care until a mound of primitive armor lay at his feet. The Radiant Court, which had laughed at kinetic weapons, suddenly had nothing to say to proof of what they did to flesh. Dane straightened and met Ceres Vale's eyes. "This," he said. The word the elder spoke shattered the Sky Hall's silence like a crack through crystal. Dane halted. He didn't turn immediately. Instinct told him that whatever he'd triggered was old, heavy, and very real. When he finally looked back, every Aurelian crest in the hall had snapped rigid, glowing in sharp, stunned light. Elder Mari stood at the center of it, her posture carved from authority. Princess Ceres appeared, shaken. Not furious, not amused, genuinely destabilized. Her crest flickered in chaotic bursts, light scattering across the facets like broken reflections. "Elder Maris," she said, voice tight, "the vow hasn't been invoked in centuries." You cannot expect the court to honor. The vow of bearing cannot be dismissed, Maris answered calmly, least of all by royalty. A ripple of panic moved through the gathering. Aurelians whispered behind raised hands, crests pulsing in anxious patterns. No one had expected a human, primitive, quaint, decorative to awaken something sacred. Dane frowned. What vow? Maris turned to him. Her eyes were steady, unblinking. When a warrior is mocked publicly, she said, and responds not with anger but by revealing the truth written on their body, and when that truth silences the one who mocked them, the vow of bearing is fulfilled. Dane blinked. All that because I took off my armor. You revealed your scars, Maris said. You revealed truth. Intention is irrelevant. Witnessing is everything. Ceres's crest flared sharp. It is archaic, symbolic. It cannot bind a modern court. It binds you, Maris replied. You fell silent. That sentence hit Ceres like a blow. Dane saw the moment she realized there was no arguing it. She had stopped laughing. The court had seen her stop. The vow grants the warrior equal standing, Maris continued. Protection, voice, obligation from the one who mocked them. Dane felt heat rise under his collar. I didn't ask for this. No vow ever has been asked for, Maris said. It is earned. Ceres turned sharply toward him, eyes bright with a mix of anger and disbelief. This was not supposed to happen. I wasn't aiming for it, Dane said. His tone stayed even controlled. I was done being a prop. You stripped in the middle of my hall. I removed armor. I didn't expect ancient law to activate. It is not ancient law, Maris corrected gently. It is our origin. It is who we were before technology made us forget humility. Dane exhaled once through his nose, controlled, contained. Fine, then release me. You cannot release yourself, Maris said. Only the princess may break the vow. Dane looked at Ceres. Ceres looked frightened, not of him, of the responsibility. She started, then stopped. Her crest spasmed again. I need time. Princess, Maris warned softly. Ceres straightened, forcing her voice back into something regal. I said I need time. I will not renounce anything until I understand what I witnessed. A diplomat in silver robes stepped forward. Your Highness, Terran command will demand immediate. Be silent, Ceres hissed. It wasn't a performance, it was a slip of real emotion. This is between myself and the warrior. Dane's brow twitched. Sergeant is fine. Maris dipped her head toward him. Tonight, Sergeant Kellen, you are more than your rank. 2 Aurelian guards approached, not to restrain him, but to escort him with ceremonial formality. The hall parted around him like water, eyes following every scar he'd shown. Ceres called after him, voice steadier than her crest. At dawn, she said, a private audience, no officials, no guards, just you and me. Dane paused. Why? Because I cannot release a truth I did not understand, she said quietly, and I intend to understand it. Maris nodded once. A fitting choice. The vow cannot be undone by pretending it did not strike your heart. Ceres held Dane's gaze one last time. There was no arrogance left, only a noble force to confront the reality of her own cruelty. Dawn, she repeated. This bond ends when I decide it ends. Dawn filtered through the translucent walls of the private chamber, painting the room in shifting gold. Dane stood just inside the entrance, posture straight, hands clasped behind him. His undersuit was clean, his armor left in his quarters by explicit order. The silence stretched between him and Princess Ceres like a drawn wire. She was already seated. Not on a throne, there was no throne here, but on a curved, grown from the floor Aurelian chair that hugged her posture with impossible elegance. Her crest glowed dimly, light pulsing in small, uneven rhythms. For the first time since he'd met her, Ceres looked unsure. Sergeant Kellen, she said softly, thank you for coming. I was ordered to, he replied, not hostile, just honest. A flicker crossed her crest, embarrassment. I suppose you were. Dane stayed standing. She noticed. You may sit, she said. I'd rather stand, Your Highness, Dane answered. Yesterday I stood while you mocked me. Today I'd prefer to stay on my feet. Her crest dimmed. That's fair. Silence stretched again. Ceres inhaled slowly as though bracing herself. I want to understand, she said. Yesterday in the hall, why did you do that? Why reveal all of that to me? It wasn't for you, Dane said. It was because I snapped quietly. Without shouting. That's how trained soldiers break. They don't explode, they shut down. Ceres flinched at the word soldiers. Her crest flickered sharply. I didn't know, she said. I thought you were ceremonial, a symbol. A representative for diplomatic harmony. You never asked? Dane kept his voice steady. You just assumed I was too stupid or too passive to care. Saris swallowed hard. You're right. Dane blinked. He wasn't expecting agreement. Saris rose slowly from her seat and approached him, maintaining enough distance that neither could accuse the other of aggressiveness. Her voice softened. I have spent my entire life here, she confessed. In rooms like this, surrounded by people who repeat the same hollow rituals. No danger, no uncertainty. Our soldiers are trained in simulations. Our officers lead from orbital platforms. I have never seen real combat. Only perfect, sterile models of it. Dane didn't move. Saris continued. And you stood there motionless with that little smile. I assumed you were just like our ceremonial guards, a body, not a person. That smile isn't real, Dane said quietly. It's a habit, helps keep the mind blank. Her eyes softened with something almost like horror. You used it against me. I used it to survive you. Saris sat down again, but this time it looked less like elegance and more like exhaustion. Her crest dimmed to a pale blue. Show me, she said. Dane frowned. Show you what? Your scars, Saris whispered. Not to mock them. Not to perform. To understand what I made light of. Dane hesitated. Yesterday had been impulsive. Today would be intentional. Still, he stepped forward, pulled the sleeve of his undersuit to his shoulder, and revealed the longest plasma burn. Saris leaned in, not with disgust, but with a slow, reverent caution. This, Dane said, was an ambush on an abandoned station. We were pulling civilians out of decompression zones when a marauder cell hit us. Armor stopped most of it, but heat transfer still burns through plating. Saris's lips parted. This would have killed one of us instantly. I know. Her hand hovered above the scar but didn't touch. May I? Dane nodded. Her fingers traced the edges lightly, as though touching a sacred artifact. You endured this. I didn't have a choice, he said. People were behind me. Saris moved her eyes to another scar along his ribs. And this one. Zero-G fighting on a drifting outpost. 1 round stopped by plating. 2 got through. You kept fighting. Retreat wasn't an option. Saris's crest dimmed even more. You've seen real war. I've seen people die, Dane corrected. War is just the name politicians give to it. She sank back, crest trembling. I mocked all of this, I mocked you. You mocked what you didn't understand. And now I want to understand, she whispered. Because yesterday, when you took off your armor, I didn't stay silent out of shock. She paused. I stayed silent because I realized I'd never seen something real in my entire life. The admission hung between them. Dane finally asked, What do you want from me, Your Highness? Saris drew a slow breath. Teach me. He blinked. Teach you what? What it means to be a human warrior, she said. Not the diplomatic version, not the sanitized one, the truth, the survival, the discipline, the reality. Dane folded his arms. Why? Her voice cracked just slightly. Because the vow binds me to acknowledge the truth I tried to bury. And because yesterday I saw a strength I have never possessed. You endured pain I cannot imagine and stood tall anyway. Dane held her gaze. If I do this, you don't get to mock what you learn. She shook her head. I don't want to mock anymore. And you listen, he added. Not as a princess, as a student. Her crest glowed a warm, steady pulse. Agreed. Another pause. Then Saris said the words he didn't expect from royalty. The training hall was nothing like the Sky Hall. No glass pillars, no prismatic ceilings, no hovering sculptures made of folded light. Just steel walls, padded floors, and a faint scent of disinfectant, enough to remind Dane of a dozen bases across a dozen worlds. Princess Saris stepped inside as though entering an alien landscape. She wore Aurelian training attire, elegant, iridescent fabric that shimmered with every movement. It looked more like ceremonial dancewear than anything a soldier would sweat in. Dane stood across from her in patched PT gear, arms folded, expression unreadable. You're early, he said. I didn't sleep, Saris answered honestly. He nodded once. Then let's start. Saris clasped her hands behind her back, mimicking his posture. What is the first lesson? That nothing works the way you expect it to, Dane said, and that plans fail the second you need them most. Her crest flickered. That is a pessimistic philosophy. It's reality, Dane replied. Your people train for ideal circumstances. Humans train for everything to go wrong at once. Saris exhaled, steadying herself. Then show me. Dane tossed her a practice weapon, a weighted simulation rifle used for manual drills. She caught it awkwardly. Aurelians rarely touched physical weapons. They used neural-linked constructs or elegant staff-like conduits for shield manipulation. The rifle nearly slipped from her hands. "It's heavy," she said. "It's real," Dane corrected. "Get used to the difference." He showed her the basics: stance, bracing, muzzle control, human fundamentals. Saris tried to copy him, but her movements were too elegant, too fluid, designed for aesthetics, not force. "No," Dane said. "Stop flowing, you're not dancing, brace your feet." She frowned, crest dimming. "I am bracing." "Not enough. Wider stance, you'll get knocked over." She adjusted barely, wider. Reluctantly, she widened her stance again. "That wide?" she asked. "You'd be surprised how many people die because they want to look graceful in a firefight." Saris muttered something under her breath in Aurelian. Dane didn't need translation, the tone alone gave it away. "It's normal to be bad at this," he said. "I'm not used to being bad at anything," she admitted. "I know, that's the problem." He moved behind her, adjusting her shoulders. She stiffened. Aurelians were not used to physical correction, but relaxed as she realized he wasn't judging, just guiding. "Push your weight forward," he said. "Center your gravity. Good. Now hold it." She tried, he watched. 5 seconds later, she wobbled. "This is absurd," Saris said. "My people manipulate shield harmonics with a thought. How is this primitive stance so difficult?" "Because your shields do the work for you," Dane said. "Your muscles don't." Saris's crest dimmed in irritation. "Then we strengthen them." The statement surprised him. It wasn't pride, it was resolve. "Fine," Dane said. "Let's see what you can actually handle." He ran her through basic conditioning: grips, holds, stabilization drills. Saris lasted longer than he expected, but not long enough for pride to survive it. By the end of the first hour, her breathing was ragged, her stance shaky. "Is human training normally this exhausting?" she asked. "This," Dane raised an eyebrow, "this is warm-up." Her crest flickered in exhausted despair. "Humans are insane." "No," Dane said. "Humans are used to fighting without guarantees." She sank onto a bench. Her posture wasn't elegant anymore. It was human, tired, and honest. "Tell me something," she said between breaths. "How do your soldiers endure this, day after day?" "Because they don't have an empire protecting them," Dane said. "They have each other, that's enough." Saris looked at him in a way she never had before. Not with superiority. Not with curiosity, with respect. Dane didn't acknowledge it, but he felt it. It shifted the room. After a moment, Saris stood again, refusing to sit in weakness. "What's next?" "Field maintenance," Dane said, tossing her a dismantled weapon. "Put it back together." She stared at the scattered components. "There are so many parts." "That's life," Dane said. "Everything is parts. Learn how to fix what breaks." Saris began assembling it. Slowly, painfully, repeatedly wrong. "Again," Dane said each time. Her crest dimmed with frustration, then brightened with determination. On the 4th attempt, she connected the chamber correctly. A small pulse of light flickered up her crest, surprised pride. "I did it," she breathed. "You did," Dane said. "Now do it blindfolded." "What?" He dropped a soft training cloth into her hands. "War doesn't wait for perfect conditions." Saris stared at the cloth, then tied it over her eyes. It took her 8 minutes this time. When she finished, her hands were trembling, but the rifle was fully assembled. Her crest glowed warm silver, a sign Dane had only seen once when she had spoken her first honest apology. She removed the blindfold. "This feels different." "What does?" he asked. "This training," she said quietly. "It hurts and it's humbling and I can barely do any of it, but it feels real." Dane nodded once. "Welcome to the human side of combat." "Then I want more," she said. "Teach me everything your people do when your technology fails and your hope breaks and you're still expected to stand." 3 weeks into their training, Princess Saris Vale stepped into the Joint Operations Bay with a confidence she hadn't earned yet, but desperately wanted to. The chamber was massive, a converted docking hangar fitted with hazard fields, hollow zones, and shifting terrain platforms. Human soldiers, Aurelian guards, and 2 other species formed mixed squads along the perimeter. Dane stood at the center, arms crossed, watching her. "Remember," he said, "today isn't about elegance." "It rarely is," Saris replied, a little breathless from their morning drills. "Good," Dane said. "Then let's see what happens when everything goes wrong." Aurelian commanders were overseeing the setup from a raised control platform. They expected a standard mixed forces exercise. They did not expect what Dane had arranged. The lights dimmed, terrain panels shifted, a holographic colony projection flickered into place. "Scenario begins," an overseer announced. Aurelian squads activated their shields instantly, smooth, synchronized, perfect. Human squads checked weapons, redundancy seals, and backup comms. Saris glanced at the Aurelians. Impressive, isn't it? No, Dane said. Predictable. Then he gave a subtle hand signal toward the control booth, and everything broke. A deafening snap echoed through the chamber, lights flickered, shield harmonics crashed into static, neural links severed. Environmental stabilizers dropped for 3 full seconds before backup power flickered online. Aurelian squads froze. Human squads moved. Saris's crest flashed alarm white. What happened? System failure, Dane said calmly. Part of the exercise. This wasn't in the briefing. Exactly. The Aurelians immediately attempted to restart their shield fields. Nothing happened. Their neural interfaces blinked error glyphs. Panic rippled through their ranks, quiet, controlled, but unmistakable. One Aurelian guard raised his voice. Our systems are down. We cannot engage. Human soldiers were already on the move, forming fallback lines, establishing visual signals, switching to manual operations. Sarah stared at them. How are they functioning normally? Because they expected failure, Dane said. You didn't. She turned toward her own people and saw fear disguised as discipline, uncertainty masked by posture. They weren't used to this. They weren't trained for it. Dane lifted his voice. Saris with me. She followed him by instinct. He moved low, fast, efficient, no wasted motion. She had to adjust her stance, shorten her steps, brace against the unfamiliar terrain the way he'd shown her. Explosive simulators detonated overhead, debris scattered. Aurelian squads huddled near fallen structures, shouting status reports about non-responsive systems. Human squads shouted too, but in formation with direction with purpose. Backup channels active. Manual navigation engaged. Second line secure. They weren't panicking, they were adapting. Saris's heart hammered so hard she felt it through her crest. How are they maintaining coordination without neural links? Hand signals, light taps, short phrases, Dane said. Old methods, reliable methods. It's chaotic. That's war, Dane said. Order in the middle of chaos, not instead of it. A simulated hostile drone swarmed toward them. Saris instinctively tried to activate her shield. Nothing. Her breath caught. Dane moved before she could panic. Saris stance. She planted her feet the way he drilled her. Forward, wait, brace. Follow your training. She raised the practice rifle. Her arms shook, but she aimed. Dane steadied her elbow. Together they fired. The drone shattered. Not elegantly, not perfectly, but it worked. Saris gasped. I did that. You did, Dane said. Now keep moving. Around them, the little cracks were widening into revelations. Aurelian troops waited for systems to return. Humans built new strategies on the fly. Saris really saw what Dane had been telling her. Her people were brilliant, precise, untouchable, so long as everything worked. Humans were brutal, chaotic, stubborn, and impossible to stop. The simulation shifted. A second wave of adversaries descended, heavier, faster. Aurelian units attempted to withdraw, citing lack of operational tools. Human units pressed forward, protecting mixed squads. Saris's voice trembled. Dane, they're failing. No, he said. They're learning slowly, painfully, the hard way like you. Saris turned to him, crest dimming with dawning clarity. Your people survive because you expect things to break. And because we know how to keep going when they do. You train for the worst. We train for the truth. She swallowed. Then my people have been training for illusions. Dane didn't say yes. He didn't need to. The simulation finally ended. The lights steadied. Systems hummed back online. Aurelian commanders were pale beneath their shimmering skin. Saris stood in the middle of the chamber, breathing hard, sweat streaking down her temples. Her crest pulsed with the sky hall was full long before dawn. Nobles lined the balconies in shimmering rows, their crests glowing with tense, uneasy patterns. Advisors whispered frantically. Diplomats from 3 species stood in tight clusters, preparing for whatever political disaster Princess Saris was about to unleash. Dane stood at the foot of the dais, this time not as decoration, not as a guard, but as someone the court had been forced to acknowledge. Some looked at him with curiosity, some with resentment, a few with fear. Saris entered last. She wore no jewels, no ceremonial veil, just a simple white tunic that shimmered faintly under the sky hall lights. Her crest glowed a steady, resolute blue. One Dane had learned meant clarity. The room quieted instantly. Members of the Radiant Court, Saris began, voice carrying without amplification. I will speak plainly. The nobles exchanged nervous glances. Plain speech was not their specialty. 3 weeks ago, I mocked a soldier, Sarah said. A human soldier whose armor I dismissed as primitive, whose survival I treated as entertainment. Whispers erupted. Dane stood motionless. Saris continued. He revealed his scars, and I, who had never seen real war, fell silent. That silence invoked the vow of bearing. Several nobles gasped, others visibly winced at the reminder. I am not here to dissolve that vow, Sarah said. I am here to honor it. The room erupted into sharp colors, shock, dissent, alarm. A diplomat shouted, Your Highness, the political implications are irrelevant, Sarah snapped. Her crest flared bright silver, silencing the room. What I witnessed demands change. She gestured to Dane. This soldier trained me. A murmur rippled across the hall. He showed me what human forces prepare for failure, chaos, loss of control. They do not rely on perfect systems. They do not assume safety. They adapt. They endure. Dane stood still, eyes forward, but her words landed heavier than he'd expected. Saris continued, stepping across the dais like she was peeling away centuries of gilded illusions. And yesterday, during a joint simulation, our systems failed, by design. Aurelian commanders stirred uncomfortably. And our forces, Sarah said, froze. The hall glowed with stuttering patterns of shame. While humans continued the mission, manually, efficiently, successfully. Now the silence was absolute. Saris looked at the court, not like a princess seeking approval, but like a warrior demanding accountability. We have grown complacent. Dependent on technology so flawless we have forgotten how to function without it. We call ourselves advanced, yet we cannot fight when our systems falter. Humans, whom we dismiss as primitive, can. Dane saw the words strike like blows. Saris raised her chin. I propose a new doctrine. Aurelian forces will train under human backup protocols. They will learn to operate without shields, without neural links, without field harmonics. They will learn resilience, not just precision. A noble stood abruptly. This is regression, madness, luminance shapes us. Luminance has made us fragile, Saris interrupted. Truth has revealed it. Elder Mari stepped forward, her crest glowing the deep amber of approval. The princess honors the vow, she said. She acknowledges the warrior's truth, and through that acknowledgement she strengthens the empire. Several nobles bowed their heads. A few refused. One diplomat spoke sharply. And the human, what role does he play in this upheaval? Saris glanced toward Dane. He will continue training me, she said. A ripple passed through the court. Shock, disapproval, curiosity. And if the Radiant Court wishes the Empire to survive the next century, Saris added calmly, he will train our officers as well. Dane felt dozens of eyes turn to him. Yet for the first time there was no mockery in them. Saris descended the dais and approached him directly. The hall watched every step. She stopped an arm's length away. You showed me truth, she said softly, not to shame me, not to gain standing, but because you were tired of being ridiculed for the scars that kept you alive. Her crest glowed warm silver. I will not forget that. Dane inclined his head. I didn't do it for politics. I know, she said. That is why it matters. For a moment neither moved, neither spoke. The entire Radiant Court breathed in a single, suspended silence. Then Elder Maris raised her voice. The vow stands, she declared. It binds until the truth it revealed is fully understood. Saris nodded once, then we begin. Dane answered with a single, steady word. Ready. It wasn't consent, it wasn't command. It was partnership, unpolished, uneasy, honest. The Sky Hall lights shifted to a soft gold, reflecting the court's guarded acceptance. As they turned to leave the dais together, Saris spoke under her breath so only Dane could hear. Strange, isn't it? She said. A princess and a soldier, changing an empire. Dane allowed the smallest hint of a smile. Stranger things have happened. Name one. He thought about scar tissue, ancient laws, and a moment of silence in a hall of laughter. You wouldn't believe me, he murmured,